The homeless man before us just arrested. 25 years ago, he was a cop rookie. He had a hard time in the police. Only this senior mentor had cared for him. But one night, the mentor suddenly vanished. Since then, he was gone. Master called out his name, but the old detective still couldn't believe his identity. He then asked a question on the first day they met 25 years ago. Master held his hand, repeated the same words as before. Press here. Need 1 point Hoff's nausea. The old cop faced the truth. The person ahead, the pride of 93's police. Ethan Young. But on his face there were no signs of 25 years. This is a new Hong Kong show. A cross-time pursuit of a killer. When hits in Hong Kong shows are rare, it brought many viewers back to memories of watching Hong Kong shows as kids. Some say its script is excellent. Hong Kong shows move fast. But this drama, a case over 25 years. A complex serial murder case. The first episode reveals the killer, followed slowly reveals another dark group plots a scheme. It also creates many, some good, some evil, unique characters typed in black and white. From Jason's perspective, 2 nights ago, it was a stormy night in 1993. He was pursuing a criminal. He entered a building. In the lift, a criminal knocked him out. There was thunder and lightning. The building got struck. When Jason woke up, it was already 2018. 25 years, the city of Hong Kong has endured countless typhoons, walking in familiar yet strange streets, everything around seemed frozen in time. Jason felt as though he came from another world. All felt unreal. He rushed to find his family, but strangers occupied his home. Disappeared from the world. No method could help him find them. Jason had to go back to the building, repeatedly taking the elevator down. He couldn't go back to the past. In the dead of night, like a wandering ghost, roaming around the mortal world. That night, the suspicious Jason was spotted by a young female officer. She wanted to check his it. He tried to quickly escape, but that petite officer had a stubborn determination. She firmly held on to him. The once noisy police station now felt cold and oppressive. He refused to talk to the young officer, demanding to speak to her superior. Finally, he found an old acquaintance. It was Officer Liu, now a chief inspector. Where his wife and daughter had gone, but Officer Liu answered vaguely that he had lost contact with them a long time ago. In order to find more clues, the two arranged to meet their former boss from 25 years ago, Officer Yi. A senior assistant director, seen an old friend. He couldn't believe it either, but he remained calm. What a pity he has no news of Jason's wife and daughter. To ensure Jason could live in 2018, 2 officers found him an abandoned safe house to serve as his new home and gave him a new identity. Liu's undercover was tragically killed, so Jason assumed the agent's role, returned to police work. Birthday. Jason blended into the precinct while teamed up with a bunch of rookies. His new position was certainly much lower than before, but Jason wasn't someone who sought power or status. He valued truth and justice more. Officer Yi bought Jason a new phone as well to help him adapt to the information age. Could hardly believe that phones could call and chat now, and even take pictures. Yet, not knowing the power of the internet, he couldn't know there are many ways to find people online now, and both officers tacitly didn't teach him how to search for family online. Liu happened to receive a phone call. A case has arisen. 2018, serious crime and cases have dropped. Yet, on Guando's first day back as a police officer, the police team encountered a mystery. A middle-aged man was found dead in his own bathtub. His body was underwater. His eyes were wide. A phone was in the water too. From detectives to the coroner, first opinions were the victim likely died while charging his phone in the bath, leading to a deadly shock. But Guando saw it in the laundry basket. The victim's shirt was missing. That night, the coroner confirmed death by shock. Yet, the victim had a few puncture holes. This detail prompted a strong reaction from Guando, because puncture wounds reminded him of a case he chased 25 years back. It was too alike. 25 years ago, many people died in quick succession. The first was a mafia boss, who was killed at home with his throat slit. The second was a lawyer, who fell from a tower, had antidepressants inside. The third was an Indo-Pakistani man who drowned. There were beer cans from his brand at the shore. It looked like a drinking accident. The fourth was a school social worker, killed with a slashed carotid artery in an alley. The fifth was a firefighter, beaten in the head with a blunt object in an alley, died from loss of blood. Their backgrounds straddled good and bad. Some appeared to have died accidentally, some looked like suicides, some were clearly murdered. But what's strange is they died one after another, as if pushed by a hidden force, and those who died from violence show no signs of struggle. Jason found a blind spot. He drank twice as much of the same brand of beer, jumped into the water while drunk, and then effortlessly climbed back ashore. Turns out, he knew the man drank a lot, addicted to high-proof liquor, but that day, drowned after a six-pack, oddly, clearly strange. So Jason insisted on a close autopsy. The victim had small neck marks. Jason had the coroner check other bodies. All the victims had tiny puncture wounds. The police then connected all these deaths, calling it anesthetic needle murder. The cases were mostly the killer injected the victims into unconsciousness, then killed them by different means. In the hunt for the killer, Jason received an anonymous voicemail pointing out the killer named. He set out to investigate. It was a lonely young electrician. He knew one of the victims, the throat-slit school social worker. This social worker had taken Mike, a student, years ago, to a psychiatric hospital. Now Mike is a very emotionally cold person. Though suspected of murder, he was taken to the room. He showed no signs of panic after being let go for lack of proof. Jason had a talk with him. In the talk, Mike stated that the anonymous call identified himself. He made the call himself. Then he suddenly, through the cloth, picked up a metal rod. He struck his head hard. Blood gushed from the wounds. But from that, was framed by Mike as the attacker. Later, Wango was suspended from the force. It shows that Mike has such a meticulous mind and ruthless methods. There's surely a problem. Soon after, Wango's wife and daughter were driving when hit by a homemade bomb. They didn't die, but were both injured. Wango realized someone was after him because Mike had worked with explosives at the site. He believed Mike was behind it. Until one night, Mike had gone into a sewer. Wango went to chase him alone. In the sewer, he indeed discovered a masked man. During the pursuit, Wango was knocked out by that person, then leapt 25 years ahead, back to 2018. This new victim in the bathtub has more puncture wounds. These puncture wounds are on the neck, but on the abdomen. The victim had diabetes. The puncture wounds came from self-injecting insulin, but Jason remembers the victim's shirt is missing. Who puts away their shirt before bathing? Who would put away their own shirt? Jason deduces killer must have taken the shirt because the shirt has puncture wounds. Forced injected, leaving puncture wounds. This might be another death by sedation. A 25-year gap. Only Jason, who crossed over, can connect the dots on this case. Next, with Officer Kate, just met, heading to the victim's home for inquiry. Sure enough, they found out. If the victim used a needle-free injector, how could there be puncture wounds? Jason deduces the killer knew the victim's insulin habits early on. Only realized after the crime, the victim used a needle-free injector to hide signs of anesthetic use. And the top with needle holes. Jason's theory was later confirmed. The examiner found on re-exam the victim had traces of anesthetic in their system, midazolam. This matched the 1993 murders. Several victims had similar residues. And next, suspicion naturally returned to Mike. Mike attempted to murder his sister, committed to a mental hospital by mom. He stayed there for 25 years during this time. No new evidence. You always thought Si-hong was guilty, but there was no solid proof. The sensational murder case ended without resolution. At this point, news arrived from the hospital. A few days ago, Mike. He escaped from control. This new murder case is happening during Mike's escape. Jason followed the trail of Mike's mother's funeral to look for clues. They found out at the funeral home Mike Chen has kidnapped his sister and her daughter. Chasing clues, Mike and Kate arrive at an abandoned fortress. They finally meet Mike Chen in a standoff. When Mike saw Mike, recognizing who he was, he panicked and ran. He spared his own family. Outside, he was stalked by Kate. Kate was about to shoot, but a blow came from behind. Kate collapsed at the scene. The one who hit her, it was Officer Yi. The cops reviewed the case. He only saved Mike's sister and her daughter, but let Mike escape, and his sister provided a testimony made the case even more puzzling. When that diabetic person died, Mike was with the mother and daughter. He has an alibi. This means the person who died in the bathtub was not killed by Mike. Mike couldn't believe it. He ran back to the abandoned fortress where Mike kidnapped his sister, but he found a phone here. It's left for him by Mike. Turns out this person is quite lonely. 25 years ago, he resolved to rival Jason. 25 years on, he sees him again. How could he become? He shares a long story about himself with Liam, the joy of reuniting with him, and he left behind this phone. Liam explains this to Liu and Officer Yi. Daniel says he'll hand over proof, but Officer Yi replied, let Liam